Okay, so let's take a look at how you can deploy Kubernetes service cluster. Okay, so first thing we are going to do is we log into Microsoft Azure, and next thing we will go to all services. Right from there, we will find the container services. Right, so if you click on container, you will find these options where you can see Kubernetes services, then container instances. We will cover both of them, but for this particular session I will cover Kubernetes service cluster. So click on this Kubernetes service, and here you will be taken to Kubernetes dashboard. Right now currently there are no clusters in work, so we will click on create. As you can see, it will show you the drop down for Kubernetes cluster with Azure Arc and hybrid cluster. So I will choose create a Kubernetes cluster. Now it will take a second or so, and as you can see we have all these tabs to cover. Now first thing is project details. It will ask you to choose the subscription, then you choose the resource group. You can create from new, or you can pick from your regular one. Right now the next thing is choosing the cluster details. Here you can see there is a preset configuration, so I will choose the dev test because I just want to test this. Then comes Kubernetes cluster name. So let's say I pick dev cube and that name is available. Right now there is also region by default selected for me. I can go to that particular region, or I can choose any other recommended one. Right, let's see, like US East 1 2 and West, Asia Pacific, and so on. Right, so I will go with the one that Azure selected for me. Now there is a pricing tier. It has free and standard options, so you will be charged only for virtual machine storage and network. Right, in case of standard, everything will be charged, and per second for your node will be charged. Right, so standard is used when you have some business applications to deploy. So for test purpose you can go with free. Right now in case of Kubernetes version, you can find that it allows you to go for older versions, you can go for newer versions, or choose the default, which is going to be LTS type of version, which will be supported for you. Now the thing is, you can choose the automatic upgrade in case if you want the patches. Right, you can enable that and choose the patch. Now there is also primary node pool option where you can choose the node size. Right, currently as you can see you have like 4 vCPUs, 16 GB memory. If you change the size, things will change. Right now let's say I want to reduce the cost, so what I will do is I will pick the most lowest cost from the list. Here you can see B2S is lowest, then there are other, right, but none of them are low cost. So if you check the B series, it seems to be the low one. All the D and E series seems to be for higher priced one. Right, so we will just go with B2S. Select that, then come here. Now here you see you have 2 eCPUs and 4 GB memory. Now for scaling, you can auto scale, add node up to 5, or you can pick the manual and restrict your node count to 1. Right, so okay, here you can see for production workload at least 3 nodes are recommended. For development and test, only 1 node is required, so I'm going with 1 node, so I don't have to push for higher in case of just test node. Now comes node pools, where I can already see one of the agent pool here with Linux OS and the size that we selected. There is also option to enable virtual nodes, and I can also check the description for encryption type of default or customer managed key. So I will let Azure decide this for me. Right now, click on Access. Here you can choose the local account authentication with Kubernetes RBAC. So this is the RBAC option along with Azure AD. Also Azure AD with Kubernetes RBAC. So like these two options are good if you already have set up Azure Active Directory. Right? If you haven't set that up, then in that case you will have to do that first, then come here and choose this option. So I will just choose local account. Right now, click networking. Here you can see I picked the network configuration here. Then choose the prefix. Right, then there is traffic routing option, which is load balancer standard allocated for you already. You can choose private cluster, choose IP range to connect to, so that you can limit your network traffic. Right, then comes integration part. Some people enable that basic plan, some don't. So I don't prefer to enable it even if it is for free, because this is just a test cluster that we have. Right, then comes your Azure container registry. Right, you can choose that or you can create a new one. If you choose to create a new one with your own set of uh, private images registry, you can choose this route. Right, now comes your Azure monitor options. So if you are not doing this for enterprise or small business, better keep this disabled. Same with Azure policy. I will only recommend it if you have some non-test or say production use, then enable it and do the necessary configuration for that. So if you enable it, it will have to enforce that particular policy. Right, you can read about it here. Now next thing is setting advanced options for CSI driver along with resource group. So resource group is basically the name that contains your existing resource group name along with your cluster name and the region. Right, now comes the tags. So let's say you want to organize your clusters. In that case, you make use of Kubernetes clusters and you want to sort them out as per application or usage, then using tags is a good option. Now comes the final part, which is review and create. Here you can see first validation will happen so that you will see that it is in the process ready to deploy. Now you can take a look at all the options that you have selected. You can then deploy it and create your Kubernetes cluster. Right, so all the options we already have enabled, so you are ready to go with. Right, so what I will do is I will just simply click on create. If you happen to find that there is something missing or you want to change something, go previous, that also do before hitting create. That is a much better option, because later you will have to go through things you want to change. Right, so I will click on create and let the deployment proceed. It will take around 5 to 10 minutes, but I will just pause up to that part. I will just show you the deployment page that will be generated. Here you can see the deployment page here, and it is showing you the progress. Now you can see the deployment is complete and it will show you option to connect to cluster or go to resources. You can pick either of that option and proceed ahead. In my case, I want to show you how the resource dashboard would look like. Now here you can see we have our overview of cluster, where you can see my server address, my node and its configuration, respectively the network configuration as well. Here you can see option for capabilities, then recommendations. You can also go through tutorials to work with it. Now here it will tell you in get started to use a sample application to connect to. You can also connect via Cloud Shell, and then you can also connect your CD and proceed for further configuration. Now the thing is, if you want to connect via Cloud Shell, you have this top option, Cloud Shell, but it will require you to choose between Bash and PowerShell. Also, you will have to incur the charges that comes in for using this shell. Right now comes all the options that we have for automation, monitoring, and let's say settings, all those logs, policies, then deployment center where you can see that it is going to be depreciated soon, and there is also automated deployment where it will be switched for operation. Currently it is in preview mode, but you should know that because in near future this will be renamed some other way or may stay as automated deployment. Right here you also start with clicking on create automated deployment, then you will have to connect to GitHub, add the Docker file and all the manifest files, etc., and then push for your automated deployment. So that's one part. Apart from that, we can also take a look at configurations that we can look for and change, like pricing tier, authorization. Like I said previously, you can always come to this part and change how you connect. So apart from local accounts, you can also use Active Directory and Azure RBAC, right? So it kind of works out that way. Next comes your Kubernetes configurations and options. So you are pretty much safe on that part. Now let's go back to overview, and from here you choose how to work with, right? For example, if you want to connect, you can click connect, and here your connection options will be available for this particular cluster, right? So that's one thing. Next thing, you can start, stop, delete this particular cluster. Then you have option to apply your YAML configurations, right? Then you have option to create your application, which could be single image or basic web app, right? So pretty much everything you need to get started is listed here, and you can proceed from this point onwards.